Let me see if y'all gave me any donations. Let me see. I'm giving y'all all my wisdom, but where the donations at? Last donation to the school was Richard Harris. Somebody better get on their Cash App. Somebody better get on their Cash App. Cash.me/$FDMG school. I better get some donations. I'm about to hang up.
Peace, peace, peace. I am Phillip Roundtree, and you are tuned into January 3rd edition of Rhetorically Speaking. As the good brother Umar just said, listen, we're accepting cash gifts. I wasn't for it in 2022 because I think I maybe did about 3 episodes, right? But I'm going to try to do at least 4, right? It's progress over perfection. So feel free to drop me some bread at hashtag Quantify LLC. Listen, man, I'm back. I don't know if I should say better than ever. I got some more grays since the last time that you all saw me, right? Salute to Marla Campbell Harris tuned in on YouTube. Salute to everybody who's tuned in on YouTube. Props to those of you who are tuned in on Facebook. And of course, salute to those who are watching on the Instagram. Head on over for such a more family friendly, better viewing experience. So just to sum up my last year, I don't have any reels or anything. I'm not that type of person to put the reels together, but I had a productive 2022, right? I survived. You know what I'm saying? I think we start there, right? I survived 2022. I've made some progress. I'm scheduled to graduate with my doctorate degree in a few months. We're going to see. I don't know if I'm going to the graduation. As I said, as you all probably know me, I'm not here for the pomp and circumstance, but they say it's about everybody else, right? And so maybe I'll tell everybody to pull up and I not be there. And maybe I could have somebody like get the degree in my honor. You know how on like the Grammys, if somebody don't show, not the Grammys, we not there with it. Let's say the NAACP Image Awards, right? And somebody's not there to accept their award. They'll have somebody like go up. Maybe I'll have my mama go up and accept the degree on my behalf, or maybe have like my son. He could walk a little bit. He might hit somebody, right? I don't like telling people that he out there hitting folk, but maybe I'll have him go walk across the stage. He might get lost, right? He might need a little guide or something. But yeah, my 2022 again, I survived. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be back. I missed being on the platform. I feel like I say this every 3 or 4 months when I do an episode. I always say, listen, I miss being here. Why? Because this is something that brings me joy. I enjoy creating. I enjoy critical thinking, right? Which we're going to do a little bit of tonight. Well, I'll be asking you all to do some critical thinking as we discuss such a polarizing, such a tragic situation that took place yesterday. But I'm trying for 2023. I'm trying to do more things that I enjoy. As a Scorpio, I follow this IG account. I don't know the name. It's like Contra Astrology or Castra Astrology, something like that. And they said for Scorpios, our New Year's resolution should be to meet with one friend once a week. And, for Scorpios who are private, especially somebody like me, I just like being in the crib. I do not like going outside unless it's to Uncle Bobby's, unless it's to the gym, right? I got a lot of standing appointments to see people that I haven't fulfilled in a bit of time. Right. And so for 2023, I'm trying to get out here in these streets more. So on Sunday night, I went over my homie Cobbin's crib. Right. And I walked in. Right. Couples everywhere. Right. And so I'm walking in this single guy. I've been single for a little bit now. And I'm walking in and I'm just like, damn, this is exactly why I should have stayed my home. Because it was just couples. So now I'm pulling up next to homie Courtney. Right. Check out Our House on Instagram. She has a dope spot here in Philadelphia. And I pulled up next to her and her boo sitting there like the third wheel. He a big brother. I'm a little smaller than him. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to get my elbows right. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm like, yo, why am I here? Because y'all know if y'all single, man, and you go out and, you going out with couples, it's just like, yo, they show you everything that you missing. Right. homies. I don't want to divulge too much of what was happening there, right? But we played this little game, and so we listening to music. You know, you got married homies getting a little Wally. You know what I mean? And I'm sitting there like, I want a Wally. You know what I mean? And if you're not familiar with a Wally, you from a different era. You might be older, you might be younger. It's just having somebody dance on you, right? And so I'm just sitting there watching, but I ain't want to watch too long. You know what I mean? Because then it's just like, you know, why you looking at, you know, all those thoughts that be going in your head. But no, I'm excited for this year and things to come, man. I'm open. I'm trying to be as present as possible. I'm trying not to, you know, have as much. I'm trying to lessen the negative self-talk. That's one of my goals, lessen the negative self-talk. But when you do, you know, when you think as critically as I do, I feel like it's just par for the course, and you just, you know, you recognize that, hey, this is just part of the game. It's just part of the game. And so with that being said, right, I feel like there's no way really to transition to the topic of tonight. And yes, I will be trying to do these a few times a week. A few might be, I know a few is 3, so maybe I should say a couple few times a week, right? So somewhere between 2 and 3 times a week. Why? Just because I enjoy this, right? I enjoy having conversation. I love hearing feedback from the people. So feel free, if you got comments, drop them in the chat box on your respective platform. Definitely bring it up. I encourage you to push back against anything that I say, if that's how you feel, if that's in your spirit, man. One thing about being a critical thinker is that I recognize that I'm not right all the time. And so sometimes that conflicts with the Scorpio in me, because, you know, we right all the time. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just the interesting dichotomy that I got to navigate. But I'm here for your comments, for your thoughts, because I'm here to learn. Right? I'm here to learn. I'm here to educate, because ultimately we are all in this together. And speaking about being all in together, the image that you see on the screen right now, and again, if you're watching on IG, feel free to head on over to YouTube or Facebook at PhilMSW. The gentleman that you see on the screen is a young man by the name of Damar Hamlin. 24 years of age. I mean, the fact that he's a Buffalo Bills player, it's significant, but it's so of no consequence right now. Right? He's somebody who is literally fighting for his life right now. He's from the outskirts of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and so that brings it a little bit closer to home. It brings it a little bit closer to home. Why? Because I know folk from Pittsburgh, specifically the area where he's from. Right? For all intents and purposes, Damar Hamlin is a family man. He's somebody who puts community first. And so last night, and I'm sure you've seen the video, you will not see the video here. Why? Because it's unnecessary. Right? Once you've seen it once, there's no need to re-traumatize oneself by watching the video and sharing the video. Now, I know when it comes to videos like police videos and killings of black and brown folk, I am somebody who promotes the sharing of those videos only if you have the capacity. Why? Because we recognize that this is one way to mobilize. This is one way to inform. Right? Something that so many people deny that takes place. And some will say, hey, what's the difference? Right? And you may be right. Maybe there is no difference. Maybe there is a reason to be sharing this. But I know for me personally and for my wellness, I can't share it. And so what I'm speaking about is Damar Hamlin suffering a cardiac arrest during last night's Monday Night Football game. Again, he plays for the Buffalo Bills as they were playing the Cincinnati Bengals. Went for a tackle, tackled the individual, stood up, and fell backwards, passing out, losing consciousness. His heartbeat was restored on the field, and then he was transferred to the University of Cincinnati's Medical Center, where he was sedated and in critical condition as of early Tuesday morning, which is this morning. And so just to set it up for you, I had just got finished watching the Sixers game, right? They had just won. I was like, all right. And I see on Facebook prayers up for Damar Hamlin, because that's what we do, right? When something happens, we automatically take to Facebook. I included. And that's what you'll hear a lot tonight, whether we go 20 minutes, whether we go 30 minutes. You'll hear a lot of I statements, and you'll hear we. Because I'm just as complicit. I play a role in this as well, in some of the things that I talk about. And so I go look, I search, and I see the video of the tackle, him standing out and falling backwards. And so I go to ESPN. Thankfully, they're not replaying the video. I see Susie Colbert, a white woman who hosts Monday Night Football, their pre and post game show. And you could hear it in her voice that she'd been crying. You see the somber look on Booger McFarland and Adam Schefter's face, football pundits. And I'm sitting there like, damn, I hope he's okay. Right. Those are my initial thoughts. And I know I didn't post that on my socials. Right. Because I went right in, as I typically do. And for those who know me, know that, yes, there is a part of me that's able to compartmentalize in moments of tragedy. It doesn't mean that I do not feel. It doesn't mean that I do not empathize with someone like Damar Hamlin's family, who have to watch their loved one literally need to be brought back to life. But I also look at it as a moment, a teachable moment. And so I'm not the person who's going to put prayers up. I respect everybody who does, as I take his image off the screen. And again, tune into YouTube at PhilMSW. I respect anybody who puts up prayers up, thoughts and prayers. Because I understand the space that comes from. And I'm not going to delve too much into that, right? It's just what we do. It's how we've been conditioned as a society to help make sense of tragedy and to potentially move forward. Right, this belief in a deity to lay their respective hand on this individual and to help heal them. No beef with me, right? No beef from me, rather. But I had some thoughts. And so the first thought that I posted was, just saw the video of Bills safety Damar Hamlin passing out after a tackle. Although the cause is unclear, my immediate thought is, what's taking so long to cancel the game? Why the hell is football a thing? Why do we watch such brutality? Why are children encouraged to play such a dangerous sport? Why aren't college players played and insured? There's tragedy in it all. And so trust, I know why the game wasn't stopped immediately. Right, it took an hour and some change for information to be disseminated from everywhere to everyone that the game wasn't going to proceed. It's yet to be rescheduled. But we understand that the NFL is a business, right? And ultimately, business trumps humanity. And so even though the game was canceled, right? Once he fell, once he had to be brought back to life, ideally you would have coaches that say, no, we're not going out, right? Because we're talking about leaders of men. And leaders of men protect, again, leaders of men, those who follow, those who lead. But I understand, again, this is a multi-billion-dollar business. And so you have sponsors that you have to worry about, right? these ad dollars. We do recognize that, you know what? This is week 17. And that brings me to a brief point, and I'm not going to stay on this too long, when it comes to a tweet by the one and only Skip Bayless. And it's the only time that I can say, not that I agree with Skip Bayless, right? But it's the mindset of behind his tweet that said, no doubt the NFL is considering postponing the rest of this game, but how? This late in the season, a game of this magnitude is crucial to the regular season outcome, which suddenly seems so irrelevant. Players were calling for his head. Tweeters were calling for his head, for him to be fired, because it was insensitive. But do you think that the thoughts that he offered here, right? How are we going to postpone this? That this thought didn't go through the powers that be at the NFL? Because this playoffs start in 2 weeks, right? And so some folk will say it's tasteless. Listen, I got one of those comments on this post that I just read. Like, do you need to talk about this now? Well, when is the right time? Right? I've never known. Right? Again, that's not a space that I operate from, really. I empathize with everyone who's navigating this the best they can with what they have. Right? But if we don't talk about the impact of such a violent sport, if we don't talk about it now when the opportunity presents itself, it's going to go on deaf ears. Why? Because the next football game is on Saturday. Literally, the next football game is on Saturday. And so we can get into this conversation about player safety and caring about the players. We recognize that they don't care about the players, right? That's not what this game is. Game, right? You have this is the modern day. I saw an IG person put it's a modern day game of barbarians, right? Clash of the Titans. Back in the Roman Colosseum, where they'll fight to the death. They're just compensated for it, right? But if we take a step back and we think about it, people are literally not only being impacted physically, but psychologically. These games are going to go on Saturday and Sunday no matter what. Why? Because it's about the bottom line. What about the PTSD that's going to come, that somebody's going to experience by walking on that field on Saturday or Sunday? That secondary trauma. You think they have the option to say, nah, I'm not going to play? I'm traumatized by what I saw? Like that commercial. That's not how any of this works. And so that was part of my immediate reaction. But again, I understood why. The next part, why the hell is football a thing? Now, between last night and today, because I knew I was going to go live, I didn't know what I was going to talk about, but I knew I was going to go live. And then I saw what the tragic accident that took place with Damar Hamlin. And I tried to avoid especially people who I respect in the broadcast game, right, who think critically. I tried to avoid their opinions. And as soon as I was about to come on a few minutes ago, I saw Bomani Jones on CNN, and I just saw the words. It's like trying to make a cigarette safe. It can't happen, right? No matter what you do, no matter the size of the helmet, you still have individuals colliding with each other. And so why is this a thing? Specifically, why are children allowed to participate in this? So I met a sister last week, and we were having this conversation about football. It was a group of us, and she said her son incurred 2, not 1, but 2 concussions. And there was consideration of him playing again, not by her, but by her son's father. And so when we get into this idea of masculinity, of brutality, of violence, this trickles down. This is how it manifests. It manifests in allowing our children who don't have fully developed brains, who don't have fully developed skulls, to be able to absorb the pressure, the force of the hits. But yet and still, parents proudly trot their child out so they can post reels and clips on IG, even though it's a high likelihood that their child not going to save them monetarily, right? They're not going to go to the NFL. I know I made a post some years ago about whether this is child abuse. By knowingly putting your child in harm's way. If you're not going to put your child, let them stand in the middle of the street where they could potentially get hit by a car, which is literally the same force as another child running at them at top speed, then why would you let them play football? But again, this is the norms of society, right? This is the culture that's bred. Another one of my posts, I'm not going to pull it up because I remember it verbatim. If there's a child who's hitting their head against the wall and they say they enjoy it, this child is going to be taken to the nearest mental health facility forthwith for a psychiatric evaluation. Yet we're taking children and putting them on a field in the name of fun, athletics, where they're literally going to get their head knocked. It's a guarantee. No matter how much change in tackling form that takes place, accidents happen, collisions happen. And what do we know about repeated trauma to the head? This is bigger than CTE. Repeated head trauma. If you fall and hit your head, if you slip on ice and you hit your head and you get concussed, you may be more susceptible to depression and anxiety. Because the brain isn't supposed to go through this type of trauma. It's not. And you would think we'd be more sophisticated, more advanced. Hence the reason why the NFL for so many years tried to hide it. Hence the reason why there's an entire movie out about it, starring Will Smith, one of his better roles. And so no, my daughter won't play football. My son won't play football, no matter how much pressure, no matter how much pushback, because it's just not safe. Because it's just not safe. And so when I'm thinking about Damar Hamlin, and because again, I end up going down this rabbit hole to potentially understand what happened, what took place. I had old heads who are here in Philly. They're saying, listen, it reminded me of Hank Gathers, who died while playing basketball, right? Loyola Marymount, Dobbins High School. It reminds folk of Danny Rumpf, Philadelphia's own, who died from cardiac arrest at the tender age of 19 or 20 while playing pickup basketball here in Philly, while he was on break from Western Kentucky, a D1 school. I want to say Reggie Lewis, I believe he died while playing basketball. Hence the reason why you have organizations like the Danny Rumpf Foundation, headed by some dope brothers, because they were friends with Danny Rumpf and they were traumatized, right? And their whole thing is saving the next brightest star. I couldn't imagine if they didn't have an AED machine or somebody to do CPR on Damar Hamlin, what the outcome could be. And he's still not out of the woods yet because he is in a medically induced coma. And so again, these types of things, it makes you question why, right? If this happened during a college athletic field, now, right, I don't know what the minimum salary is in the NFL. Maybe it's $1 million. Take some taxes away, maybe 500, 600,000. I think about college athletics. How you'll have folk who are against paying college players. Yes, I know they have the name, image, and likeness deal, but that's not being a salaried employee of the university. They bring in millions of dollars. And so what if this happened to a college player? I take it back because now I'm sitting here thinking, right? I'm thinking about Rutgers University. I want to say his name is Eric LeGrand, and somebody could fact check me on that. I'm thinking about Penn State, Adam Taliaferro, who was paralyzed while playing football. College players, they're not receiving a pension, right? Maybe they might have sued the university, but that's not the same. And no, a college tuition doesn't equate to the injuries that players are susceptible to. Yeah, LeGrand was paralyzed. Rutgers University, I believe, my alma mater. And so again, why is this even a thing? And yes, I'm a hypocrite because I was just watching the Eagles game on Sunday, upset Gardner Minshew was stinking it up. Right? I'm going to try my damnedest not to watch this weekend. But I'll find some way to reconcile that cognitive dissonance that I always talk about, where we compartmentalize. Well, we say, what's the odds of that happening again? When in reality, it's just saying, why is this even a thing at all? Just like boxing, just like MMA. And if we don't interrogate ourselves as a society about why things like this are taking place, why do we love violence so much? Why do you have to be a mercenary to make a living in America if you don't have an amazing education? And I'm talking about individuals who join the military. Now, some people do it because they have pride in their country. But you'll get a lot of folk over there because they have nothing else to do, and working at McDonald's isn't going to cut it. So they'll rather be a mercenary under the guise of protecting the freedoms of America. It makes you wonder. I'm going to pull up this third tweet. Oh, I talked about that already. Was it the second one? And this is, when I talk about the cognitive dissonance, because again, I'm not going to ramble on about this. I was just sitting there thinking, like, listen, I see all the prayers up. Monday night, prayers for Damar Hamlin. Sunday at 1 p.m., woo, you see that hit he put on him? How'd he miss that tackle? He's soft. He can't play through a little pain. And again, this highlights what I was just saying about the things that we do to justify why it is that we indulge, why it is that we engage in some of the things that we do. I really ain't got much after this. Let me see if anybody commented. No, it wasn't too many people on IG. Let me see. You know the deal. As a society, we have become numb to the violence in sports. Why do fans watch NASCAR? For the car wrecks. Same deal in the NFL. Terrible scene last night. Just hope we can learn from what happened. But will we, though? And I pose that question to you all. Will we learn from what took place last night? What does learning look like? If we're going to continue to trot these players out, pay them millions of dollars to subject their minds, their bodies, their spirits to pain, to harm. I don't know. Like the boy said, I don't say his name no more, but I ain't got the answer, Sway. Marla says it is not surprising in a country as violently capitalistic as this one that football is his pastime. Player flees out the woods, yet his job is in the wild. Are these prayers just to return? And I think that I think there's a genuine thought of I think people are genuine in because you have to hope that, right? You have to hope that there's some idea of shared humanity when it comes to an individual being hurt to this magnitude. You hope that it's not somebody who's a fan of the Buffalo Bills, like, yo, we really need him on the squad, so we got to get him out there, right? Eagles fans went through that on Sunday. Like, Gardner Minshew was playing so terrible. It's just like, yo, it's just a sprained shoulder, man. Like, can you get the 75? Can you get the 80%? And then get back out there? Never mind, you might be putting your career on the line, right? You can always get surgery to reconstruct any type of nerve damage that might take place. You could do that in the off season because you're a gladiator. That's the word I was looking for earlier, right? You're a gladiator. You're a warrior. But the reality is, this brother not playing football no more, and he shouldn't be allowed to play football anymore. I think what's interesting is, like, we see the outpouring of love for Damar Hamlin, and rightfully so, right? I do believe there's power in the tongue. I believe the ancestors are powerful, and so, I'm here for that energy. But I think about Miami Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, and he suffered concussion after concussion after concussion after concussion after concussion after concussion. And again, we're keeping score of the concussions that he experienced in the NFL. He's experienced at least 3 this year. One where he was super woozy that got the team doctor fired. 3 this year. He has a history of concussions. And so think about, if we're going back to the friend that I spoke about earlier, who has a son who experienced 2 concussions during youth football. It's a high likelihood that he's going to experience more if he continues. And whose responsibility is it to protect the football player from themselves? Especially a child. It's community. And so when we talk about why should we be having these conversations now, because it will be business as usual of Saturday and Sunday. And so for Skip's comment, his tweet, which was deemed completely insensitive because he's thinking about the season, right, from the lens of the 32 owners or however many owners are in the NFL who thinking about the exact same thing. Because if the Bills would have went on and so indulge me for a minute. If the Bills go on, they built this up to be such a marquee football game with playoff implications. And so if either one of those teams lost last night, that impacts playoff seeding. And so what do you think is going to happen if they don't play this game at all? That's why you see they didn't say it's canceled outright. They said it's postponed for now. Because again, it's money. You know, that's bigger than Nino Brown. And so when we're having conversations, right? And I know everybody doesn't have the capacity to be able to have these conversations. And so it's why when I'm sitting and I'm watching Gayle King interview Lisa Leslie, and she brings up Colorado pertaining to Kobe Bryant, I completely understand. When I'm sitting watching the aforementioned Bomani Jones and Pablo Torre the day after Kobe's passing bring up Colorado, because that's a part of his history. That is a part of his story, right? It's not to cast aspersions. And everybody doesn't have the capabilities to be able to have a nuanced conversation regarding it. Colleen says, my daughter just said today how dangerous football is and shouldn't be allowed. I mean, you should have seen football 10 years ago and 20 years ago and 40 years ago. Right? There are people, Steve Atwater, that comes to mind. If you came across the middle of the football field, you would get decapitated. Literally. I know, Chino, I know you're in here. And of course I'm an Eagles fan. I'm trying to think about the Eagle who killed himself. And because he was a heavy hitter. The name escapes me right now. But he ended up killing himself, just like Junior Seau ended up killing himself, dying by suicide. Because of the psychological issues that he was experiencing. The emotional instability that he was experiencing. Thank you, Mr. Amazon Man. Again, the cognitive dissonance. There's no way in hell I should be purchasing from Amazon. In all seriousness. Given the conditions and the union busting efforts. But again, that dissonance. And so, yes, it is a violent sport. And no, it shouldn't be played. Andre Waters. Thank you, Chi. Andre Waters. And so when we're sitting there, because we don't think about the Darryl Stingleys who gets paralyzed. The brother from the New Orleans Saints who died from ALS. Right? A lot of these conditions are a result of repeated hits to the brain. Listen, man, you know, I could sit and do this for a minute. Let me scroll up, see if I missed anything. I guess some parting shots. I just hope we're all cognizant of just how we're showing up, right? And the things that we're thinking about and interrogating our belief system when it comes to things that we say we enjoy. Especially when it comes to our youth who lack the capacity at times to make healthy decisions. So it's something to be mindful of. And with that said, I'm out, man. I'm out. I don't know how long that was. That was 40 minutes. I was rolling. I appreciate you all for tuning in. Shout out to Marla behind the scenes doing her production thing. Definitely appreciate you. Until tomorrow, we might get it tomorrow. Like I said, a few times a week. So that might mean tomorrow. But as always, go hit the YouTube subscribe button. Phil MSW. Peace.